All right, number 5, garden refuse ordinance update. Sounds exciting. Welcome, Ben.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. All right, this is a long time coming, to be honest. And so what I have before you is in regards to an ordinance update to clean up some conflicting municipal code items and give us a little teeth and enforce it. And so what we have going on is regarding garden refuse, also known as lawn clippings, prunings, leaves, etc. And so we have some old codes on the books from 1969. There's a code that said it's okay to put it on the street. And then we have a recent stormwater ordinance update that says make sure you don't put it in the road because it could go into the drain. And then additionally, we had another code where it said put it in compliance with the garbage service, which at that time in 1999, it was a little bit different, where you put it in a cardboard box next to the receptacle. And so what we've done is staff has looked at the ordinance, and this has been an ongoing problem. As many of you know, you see the neighbors get mad at each other because they're blowing leaves out in the road. It clogs the storm drains. It makes a mess. We have a difficult time with the street sweeper because when they do put leaves out on the street, our street sweeper can't pick it up. And so it turns into just an issue where it clogs the drains. It's hard for our street sweeper equipment to do it, and we're using a lot of resources besides neighbors being mad at each other type of thing and issues for traffic. So we looked at it. We, Public Works staff, got a hold of Ecology, got a hold of the city attorney, talked to code enforcement to look at all these different options to figure out and look at the codes. What do we need to do to update it, and then have a little teeth in it? And so what we came up with for the proposed modifications is basically to go through and tweak the existing code slightly so they gel now. They're all basically reading the same thing, that it's not allowed to put clippings in the roadway or in the right-of-way unless it is done in accordance with current garbage requirements, which is to put it in the green receptacle waste container or neatly bundle it and stack it where it's tied together next to that garbage receptacle with prunings that can't be longer than 4 foot in length. And so with that, before we put it in stone here, we reached out to approximately 70 local business. So we looked at our business permits and we sent a letter out to notify any of the landscape contractors in the city to basically say, hey, this is what we're proposing to do. We'd like to get your input or feedback. We received one, and the one we did get back was positive for it, with some concerns that, making sure that we treat the large contractors the same as the small contractors that might not be applying to it. And then also with that, we talked to code enforcement just to kind of go through by adding it into this nuisance section. Basically what this does now is it gives code enforcement teeth to give them a warning. So the first process is typically comes through with a complaint, and then they would receive a warning that says per municipal code section this, that, it's not allowed. And then if it continues, then they have the authorization now to follow up with an administrative citation if it continues. And that first citation would be $100, and then if it happened again, then it would go to $200. If it happened again, then the next fines would be $500 each time. And so those are just, and basically the goal is compliance. And so usually, our code enforcement, they really work with homeowners. So we're going to knock on the door and say, hey, this is the rule, please follow it. With multiple warnings is usually how we handle it with property owners. And then with the businesses, we expect them to comply. So with that, there's really not much to this regarding the staff time, but we think ultimately it might save staff time just with reduced issues in the road right away, and we recommend approval. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would anybody from the public care to comment? All right, we can bring it back to council.
Through the mayor.
Yep.
Mr. Moody, it says in the ordinance that trees, limbs, branches, etc., by placing them in refuse containers, is that limited to those provided by Recology?
Correct. So it's it's specific to the refuge provider, to that receptacle, but then it allows for neatly bundled packages next to the container. So not in cardboard boxes anymore.
Okay. As a longtime city resident who has witnessed a lot of trees, not trees, but leaves being placed out there for the street sweeper to come by this time of the year, what's the city's plan for outreach to the public?
You know, so I guess the idea is that right now if I understand your comment, right now, do those homeowners actually rake them up and put them next to the container?
That's been my experience over the years, is this time of year, people will place the leaves. They know the street sweeper, the schedules, and they push stuff out into the street, assuming that the street sweeper this time of year is going to come by
Pick 'em
and
up.
take care of them.
And that's usually where the problem is with, if it's too big of a pile, we can't pick it up into sticks. You know, we'll look into options. Definitely one of the options tools that we have is where we could put it out on the water bill. We could put some sort of notice at the bottom, but I'll work with staff and see what we could do to try to give advance notice.
Yeah, I'd like to see if it's possible to be proactive about that rather than have the knock on the door and have a code enforcement officer get after them. You know, I'm sure that people will understand the reasoning why, and you've articulated that, but I do think there's a fair amount of folks that, by habit, push the leaves out and pile them up in the street, so.
We'll work on that.
Good. All right. Any other more questions? We're looking for a action.
All right, through the mayor. I guess I'll do this. I'd like to do staff's recommendation of the garden refuge ordinance update. Recommendation to introduce ordinance amending the Yuba City Municipal Code to allow the placement of garden refuge, defining violations as a nuisance, and waive the first reading.
All right.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Ben.